Greetings, folks, and welcome to today's show. The 110th General Assembly session has ended several days ago, and our guest today is our Representative Judd Matheny, who has just finished his last term in the Tennessee legislature. So I would think you're going to be busy for the rest of the summer. What's sort of buzzing through your mind now?
Well, you're correct. We just did finish session a week ago, and that was my last official session. I'll stay in this office until midnight, November 8th, until election night. And
you'll still be in office?
I'll still be in office, yes, sir, until a new person takes over that day. But of course, I'm running for Congress this summer, U.S. Congress, and that's 19 full counties in the 6th district, of course, including Coffee, and then portions of 2 others, portions of Van Buren and Cheatham. But we go all the way over to Cheatham in the west and Fentress County in the east, completely across the Kentucky line, and then down to Coffee County. That includes Wilson and Sumner and White and Putnam and DeKalb and Smith and all those counties a little bit closer to us. So it's I think I mentioned to you off there, we drove about 10,000 miles the last 7 weeks, and we bought a campaign truck, fully intend to wear it out between now and August 2nd. But the early voting starts July 13th, so I'll be doing my state rep duties still. There's still lots of things to do. A representative represents the people, so I have lots to do. And also, day job's very busy, plus running for Congress, and got one going to college and one kid going to college. It's a busy time.
I guess.
It is.
Sounds like you're going to need a vitamin pill or two.
B12, yes, sir. Quite a bit.
Okay. And, well, with that, folks, let's take a short commercial break and get into things.
All I have to do to think about what I was physically before and what I am now, and I don't ever want to go back to that original situation.
The overall mission of the rehab team is always what is best for the patient and how we can facilitate maximum potential from every resident.
Well, the most important thing to me is that I'm allowed to do whatever I want to do,
Everyday miracles at Life Care Center of Tullahoma.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jerry Harris. I've been providing communication services throughout the United States since 1985. But instead of me telling you about the services I provide, I'll let some of my clients speak for me.
Hi, I'm Nancy Jernigan with Coffee County Realty and Auction Company. Jerry came to see us some time back, and even though we weren't ready for our phone system, he looked at our bill and he saved us over $200 a month. When we get ready for our new phone system, I'm sure we will be calling Jerry.
Host My Calls is by far the best service I have ever placed with any of my clients. It provides cost-saving solutions while providing great communications. Call me today, 931-581-4411. See how Host My Calls can save you.
We're back, folks, and we're talking with Judd Matheny today, who has just finished his last official session in the Tennessee legislature. He reminds us he will actually be continuing to be the representative until November, until somebody else is ready to take over. Judd, let's, in addition to you, let's touch on this and remind the folks that we got an awful lot of departures out of the Tennessee government.
It's a sea change in politics this year, Tom.
Yeah.
And it's really a strange dichotomy because Tennessee actually has the worst voter turnout per capita in the country, which is sad. But we also have the most political activity, not only per capita, but in actuality of any state in the union. We have about a third of our entire government on the state, and you can also see all the activity on the local level. You can, everybody's running for everything, so you can tell there's a lot of activity. But we're going to have about 30 members of the House. The Tennessee House are retiring this year. about 8 members of the Senate. We already had 2 special elections this year for the state Senate. We have 3 of our 9 U.S. Congress seats are open, which is incredible to have 3 open seats at one time. And of course, we have the United States Senate and we have the Tennessee governor's race. So all those together, when we swear everybody in next January, it's going to be a lot of new faces.
Going to be a new group.
Maybe there may be a lot of people that step up. Hopefully, in my case and Marsha Blackburn's case, and there'll be a lot of people that step up that are familiar faces on the political scene. But there'll be a whole lot of new people coming in, and a lot of we're going to have a new state representative here, and it's going to be it's just the way a democracy and a republic operate, though. We just happen to have a lot of it right now.
Yeah, it is an interesting situation, and it remains. I think they're probably going to be a little slow getting started next year.
Yeah.
Well, we got lots we could talk about from the session just ended. 10 Ready, the opioid crisis, school safety, the juvenile justice system. Still got a little of the Confederate monument argument hanging around. Sunday alcohol sales, that's a big deal for a lot of folks. And we may have one notable failure or two. But out of all that, Judd, let's touch on Tennessee Ready for starters.
Yeah, let's just go down your list, Tom. And TN Ready, if any teachers or school administrators are watching me and the concerned parents, obviously, then you know that TN Ready has been a huge debacle in Tennessee for the last several years. And just for the record, a group of us 3 years ago, led by Rick Womack, who's a former state rep out of Rutherford County, tried to have a different testing mode set up. We tried to go back to the ACT only, or ACT as an elective class instead of test, instead of TN Ready. And actually Dan Lawson here in Tullahoma, our superintendent, he mobilized about well over 50 school districts to try to get that done. And the governor has just been, with all due respect, been very obstinate to any changes with TN Ready. And we've had just some miserable failures in the classroom. It's really hurt morale. Legislators have lost full confidence in the governor's ability to steer education, and we showed that the very final days of session.
Well, what about the commissioner?
Once again, with all due respect, the governor's been very obstinate about replacing Candace McQueen, and she has very, very low confidence from the education professionals in Tennessee right now, at least the ones I talk to, and very low confidence from the legislature. But he is stuck with her, and that's his prerogative. But we were able in the very last hours of the Tennessee General Assembly, really about 3 days before we ended, we passed a bill that held teachers and administrators, held everybody harmless.
Yeah.
Well, we passed the first bill, and Candace McQueen sent a note out immediately interpreting it different than our legislative intent, and that teachers perhaps could be held accountable. And so we had to go back and pass another piece of legislation that clearly, without any doubt, exempted held everybody harmless. And I know it perturbed the governor. We were a little bit worried he'd veto it, but he's not going to. There's only one bill hanging out there that he might veto right now, and that's the Sanctuary Cities bill that we passed, which would be an abhorrent mistake if he vetoes it, because we may even come back in as a legislature in special session and override it. But TN Ready was a huge issue. It was kind of a benign session. We'll go over the points in your list, but it was kind of a benign session overall until that TN Ready hit, and it actually coalesced everybody we had, where we had been fighting all year and contesting each other, from urban versus rural caucuses and Democrat versus Republican. Everybody came together on TN Ready and spoke as one voice. It was a good exercise.
Yeah, okay. All right, opioids.
A lot of movement on the opioid front this year. Which the legislature identified it years ago as a problem. I passed the Prescription Drug Control Act in 2013 that made it mandatory for physicians and pharmacists to check databases before opioids were prescribed or dispensed. Because of that, even though we still have an extraordinary problem, opioid prescriptions are down 21% now over the last 4 years in Tennessee due to that law. But that 79% that remains, about 50% we think that could still be dangerously overprescribed. So we're reaching much deeper in trying to discipline doctors that are prescribing too freely and also those that are selling.
Yeah. Prescriptions was your major focus.
Yeah, absolutely. Prescriptions are our major focus, and we have made it more rigorous now for a patient to obtain these drugs. Not that they can't and not that they won't be able to, but a little bit more rigorous, a little bit more education from the medical community before they get on these drugs, and also slower refills and perhaps less quantities, especially when it comes to pregnant women and those that already have a propensity for abuse. The quantities may be 10 at a time instead of 30. And so we'll change it around. And then drug abuse, education, rehabilitation, all the things that are very key to getting somebody off of these problems. We put a lot of money into home health programs and
$30 million.
Community-based anti-drug programs, helping our drug courts, our veterans courts, helping law enforcement with education and intervention training. So it's we finally took a big swing at it this year, and actually the whole nation's taken a big swing at it, not just Tennessee, which is great because we have 8 border states. But we are making headway on the opioid issue. It's probably something we're never going to fully be able to get our hands around, but I think we can much tighter, and I think we can cut the overdose deaths that we have now. They're approaching 1,800 a year. I think we can fully cut those in half in the years to come with these new things.
School safety.
School safety. Well, of course.
No arming teachers.
Well, no. We're trying to allow education agencies to be able to have their own programs. If they have individuals that are prior military or prior law enforcement, or that choose to go through certain classes on high-risk shooting situations, that those individuals could be armed. And the main reason we're doing that, Tom, number one, I think those are the most responsible people in our society, so I have no problem with them carrying weapons around children, especially if they're permit holders. Facts prove that that's the safest segment of our population. But we only have about half the schools in the state have school resource officers. So there's no money available, and the General Assembly's not made money available, and the counties don't have money available for school resource officers in about half the schools in the state. So the schools need to have an option. And if the schools choose to have the option to arm qualified trained individuals to be basically school marshals. You remember we had the phenomenon of air marshals a decade ago, and they still are. You could ride on any international flight and some domestic flights, and you may have an air marshal in there. You don't know who it is. Well, the same thing with the teacher. Nobody really knows who it is. The teachers keeping concealed. We're not able to get that done in a widespread effort, but I think it's coming. This General Assembly we have realizes that force has to be met with force. At the same time, we don't want to introduce guns to the classroom. We don't want to be that way. So we're trying to thread that needle and do it in a way that everybody or most people buy into, and we just haven't come to that point.
You put a little emphasis on hiring off-duty law enforcement officers
would be great.
Who are already completely trained and would.
We have more money than ever now, but less to use. It's really acute, and it costs $70,000, $80,000 to put a resource officer in a school at a minimum once you pay their salary and their benefits and their vehicle and their equipment, and it's just an extraordinary amount of money, especially if you have 8 schools and in a district the sheriff has to deal with, and that these rural counties, that sheriff doesn't even have 8 men on the road during the day. They're all tied up. It's a real issue, and I know we got to take a break in a minute. We'll finish going through your list.
Okay. All right. Yeah. We have come to that, so we might as well go ahead and take a short commercial break, folks, and we'll come back and go some more.
Russell Barnett Hometown Auto Rental has proudly served your auto rental for over 30 years. Check out this huge selection to choose from. Small car, mid-size car, full-size car, crossover vehicle, SUV, minivan, pickup trucks, 12 and 15 passenger vans. Whether big or small, Russell Barnett Hometown Auto Rental has them all. Stop by our 2 locations to serve you, Tullahoma and in Winchester. And remember, my question is, why rent anywhere else?
It's time for every family and business in Tullahoma to go green and recycle. Tullahoma Public Works makes it simple and easy to recycle. Just place your recyclable materials, paper, plastic, aluminum, and cardboard beside your garbage container on the same day your garbage is picked up. Your recycled materials don't have to be in a fancy container. Recycling is not only the right thing to do, it makes sense. Recycling pays. Paying to bury our garbage costs each of us. Please do your part. Let's go green, Tullahoma, and recycle.
Kay and Greg Gillum have added another touch of excellence to their furniture business. Now a newly stocked 20,000 square foot Badcock Home Furniture and More location in Tullahoma, Tennessee. Locally owned and operated and offering the same friendly professional service with the best prices on name brand products like their sister store in Winchester, Tennessee has for years. Visit the new Tullahoma location and shop name brand bedroom suites, electronic department with computers, tablets, 4K televisions, and accessories. A large, complete appliance center to fit the style of any household. Beautiful selection of rugs that complement any person's taste. A variety of living room combinations all in one large showroom. That's right, Badcock Home Furniture and More has added a new location. 373 West Lincoln Street, Tullahoma, Tennessee. Offering special prices year-round. Financing is always available. Speedy delivery to your home or office. Open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., Saturday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Sunday, noon till 5 p.m. Call 931-222-4353.
Back, folks, we're talking today with Judd Matheny, who's just finished his final session with the Tennessee legislature. And we're trying to go over, hit some of the high spots that during this session so far. Well, so far it's over. Let's talk a little bit about the juvenile justice system. You got a little more reforming to do there.
We have. We probably the 2 hallmarks that we passed in the juvenile justice issue. One is we increased penalties for juveniles that commit murders or homicides, whether if they're accidental. There's a lot of ways to deal with that. If there's any type of responsibility associated with it, then we've got it set now where the juveniles can spend up to a year in DHS as a minimum. We had a case in Tennessee where...
What's DHS? Is that
the Department of Human Services, or DCS is what I meant, Department of Children's Services.
Yeah, okay.
Department of Children's Services.
But you're talking about them being incarcerated.
Yes, or being held for up to a year.
Right.
So a juvenile can even be held after their 18th birthday, as long as they get a year in custody. We had a homicide here in Tennessee a few years ago, and the juvenile only got 90 days because there just wasn't a sentencing factor that was hard and fast that juvenile could deal with or could be laid with. And then the second one is we really increased counseling and intervention in juveniles before they get into the adult system. We really need to turn those children around when they're 15, 16, and 17 if they're showing a propensity to do many crimes over time. So
we keep running into these situations when we get school shootings. We discovered there were a lot of clues out there.
So many clues.
We never picked up on.
We've got to move on those, and just the common denominator is almost every time is mental illness. And there's a lot of flags out there, and I know it's hard for people to report people, and we don't want to be a spy society, but man, when you see somebody doing so many things for so long, we need to have more intervention that we can do, for sure.
Okay. Well, and you're going to be able to buy a bottle of wine in the grocery store on Sunday.
On Sunday, wine sales are on Sunday. I did oppose that. I'm with the churches and the religious community on this one, that if we can't set aside some time for our most reverent institution, which is church, then really we've crossed a point in government and in Christianity in government. We really have, when the lottery and alcohol sales and everything, subvert religious community completely. So I just thought that last bastion honor to our churches by restricting those sales on Sunday is a prudent thing to do. Didn't happen. You'll be able to, I guess you probably go out this Sunday and buy wine, because the bill went into effect upon the governor's signature, which I'm sure has happened by now. But,
well, the other one I was a little bit surprised is that also the liquor stores are now allowed to open on Sunday.
Yep.
And one or the other doesn't take effect till like January.
Yeah, there is we have set one off later than the other, so that people that want to get into the business are going to be a little bit behind those that are already in the business, to keep it fair for them. There's still a little bit of control left in the liquor industry in Tennessee.
Which is left till later? The liquor stores, or
the liquor stores are left till later. Yes, sir. Yeah. Liquor stores are left till later, but you see so many micro distilleries and breweries out here, and really, we're getting into a regulation game now, more than a restriction game at all on the licensing. And we're seeing a lot of individual license shows up. There's a lot of nonprofits are getting liquor licenses now, and little clubs and things are getting liquor licenses. So it's spreading quite a bit.
Yeah. Oh yeah. A lot of clubs can get in on that deal. Yeah. Okay. Well, and the business of what to do with our Confederate monuments keeps cropping up. It doesn't sound like you went very far. We had this sort of unusual step of the legislature taking $250,000 away from Memphis.
Yeah, that was quite a fight.
Because they ignored the ruling of the Historical Commission and sold the parks privately, and then went ahead and took down the monuments.
They usurped. We passed a law about 6 years ago, and they went around the intent of the law and did what they did. Yeah. And the legislature thought they'd punish Memphis by taking $250,000 away from them, and they did it. And then we passed a bill that said flat out, you can't remove a monument unless the Historical Commission approves it. And then you have to move it according to the Historical Commission's recommendations if they do approve it. And if you go around that process at all, you're not eligible for any state grants. And that's in statute.
Okay.
So now there is a clear penalty for a government to violate the law. No more state grants. That's in law.
No more state grants on anything.
That's right.
Okay.
But if you want to move a monument, there is a process to do it.
Sure.
And you have to mobilize your resources and fight the battle, just like everybody is. You cannot arbitrarily move a statue. And, we have Sons of the Confederate Veterans and other historical organizations here. They're actually putting up new monuments now, new monuments to Confederates. Now they're commissioning several in my congressional district as I speak. So, both groups are very active. But bottom line is, you can't erase history.
There's a lot of emotion involved in this issue.
You can't be emotional about history. History's facts.
Yeah.
You have to take those facts and put them into your life and into your education and the education of your children and make them better people. You can talk about somebody's bad side, and you can use a teaching moment to make sure somebody else isn't like that. But even Nathan Bedford Forrest had some excellent traits to his life, excellent qualities, not only as a military officer, but also as a human being later in life. Yeah. Did some incredibly good things. Our nation's full of slave traders up until 1865. Almost all of our founding fathers were slaveholders. Our capital in Tennessee is the only operating capital that was built with slave labor. So this whole argument of Nathan Bedford Forrest has to be removed and reinterred, and we have to remove his bust. If you're going to be consistent, you have to say we have to turn our capital into a museum and can no longer use it. If you're going to be consistent. So.
Okay. Well, that's as I say, there's a lot of emotion involved in that. It doesn't turn out to be very logical at all. We got one touch on a notable failure. Governor Haslam tried for 3 years to get some more money into Medicaid, to expand the Medicaid, and he flunked out. And
the legislature just does not trust the federal government to follow through on its commitment in any way. And we have reiterated every year. We've put groups together and approach the governor and try our own legislation to try to bring that money down as a block grant. Still use it within the confines of federal regulations, but spend the money on the Tennesseans that we think most need it the first. And we cannot get that basic control over those finances for a state, and we don't want the money. And if we accept that money, more than 2/3 of our budget will be direct and indirect federal money, and that's a very dangerous place to be for a state budget.
Yeah. Well, with that, folks, we've run out of time, and we're going to have to take a short commercial break and wrap up.
Russell's got your truck, man. Russell's got your truck.
Big, bigger, and even bigger. Russell Barnett has any size truck for any size need. Chevrolet, Ford, GMC, Ram. Check us out on the web at russellbarnett.com. Our selection is so huge, we may need our own zip code. So my question is, why buy your next truck anywhere else?
With the best selection anywhere, Russell's got your truck, man.
The day the Lord created hope could be the same day He created spring.
Springtime's here. It's a good time to get our air conditioners checked out before those hot summer days get here. We've been here for a little over 35 years. It's been our pleasure to serve our community. We'd like to thank you for Tullahoma's finest, and from all of us to all of you.
Thank you!
We've been talking today, folks, with Judd Matheny, who has just finished his possibly last session with the Tennessee legislature. And so he's going to be otherwise busy this summer, though. And we don't want to give him a platform, but on the other hand, I think we ought to get a comment about how does your summer look to you, Judd?
A lot of chicken dinners and a lot of driving and a lot of shaking hands and few county fairs and lots of fire departments and rescue squad visits and things that I'm used to and with people that I enjoy. And just campaigning's neat, Tom, because you meet the people that you would have never met in your community.
Yeah.
And I walk away every day saying, how in the world have I lived in this state and lived in this area and worked here all this time and I didn't know this person, or didn't know that this person did all these things, or had all these old cars in their collection, or firearms, or whatever. I meet so many cool people, and that's the greatest thing about campaigning. It really is. You learn your community, you learn yourself, you learn your friends. Everything gets tested. Every relationship gets tested.
You got a lot of folks to meet in 19 counties.
That's right. That's right. But Tom, I have to say, we have 25 seconds left. It's been a pleasure for 16 years. Being on your show. We were trying to calculate how many times I've been on this show. Yeah. Probably at least 30. We try to do 2 a year, plus some special election shows. But you've always been just straight up, and I've enjoyed I think we've always had good, honest conversations. I've enjoyed it.
And Judd has always been very responsive about coming and talking with us. So we do appreciate your service very much. It's been a good one, and we will wish you luck of whatever.
No matter what, I've got a good life.
So. See what you can persuade the voters to do. Thank you for joining us, folks, and we will see you next time.